I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is all the way from New Zealand. In fact, he's just down the road from me, so to speak. At the other end of the island I'm on. He works at Theta as a principal architect. He was first awarded as MVP in 2023, so he's brand new into the program. He loves playing guitar and currently taking violin lessons, very unique, with his 7-year-old daughter. He's the author of the book Microsoft 365 and SharePoint Online Cookbook. Check that out. We probably will talk about that. You can find links to his bio, any of his social media assets, etc., in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Sudeep.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me here. Good to talk to a Kiwi on the other side of the screen.
It's interesting because most of my calls are always to the northern hemisphere. You know, it's a little less to the southern hemisphere. So good to speak to somebody in the same country. I was on the private meeting where you got welcomed into the MVP program that we run locally, which is great to see. Tell me a bit about when you're not doing MVP stuff, when you're not doing work. Tell me a bit about food, family, and fun. What do they mean to you?
Yeah, so I'll first talk about my family. So I live here with my wife and 2 kids. My parents and my brother are in India, in a state called West Bengal. And what I do in the free time, like you already mentioned, I love music. So I sing, play guitar, and play violin to some extent. So it's more like a creative outlet for me. And my other keen interest is in astronomy. And it's because it's a culmination of all the knowledge that we have acquired. And it's like the last frontier. And all these mundane things like our egos, our material achievements, they just like vanish when you look at this night sky. So I listen to lectures by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Lawrence Krauss, Brian Greene, and all those guys. So those are my key interests, if so to say.
And so that comes under the heading of astrophysics, is it?
Astrophysics, that's correct.
Yeah, nice. Neil deGrasse Tyson, man, a legend, man, that guy. The stuff that he comes out with, and it does, you know, because it come at some of his shows when you listen to it, you realize how much of a speck you are on the landscape of the universe, right? As an individual.
And the good thing about is how he makes it sound so easy. Like when you can't get your head around some of these concepts in astrophysics, but he makes them appear so easy. So that's what I like about him.
Yeah, so true. Tell us about your book.
So I wrote this book along with one of my ex-colleagues who I used to work with. And we were being approached by a publisher. He asked us if we would like to work on this book. It was a big challenge to begin with because my son was born in the same year, and I was handling multiple things. But in my mind, I just thought that I should give it a try. I don't know if I'll be able to write another book in my life, so why not give it one go? So eventually that book did well. And now I'm working on the second edition of the book, which is due to be published later this year.
So why are you working at Theta? Surely you should be retired by now with all those royalties from your book.
No, I love the work that I do. It's just keeps that creative thing in you burning. That's the reason. I love. I don't know if there are many people who love what they do, but I certainly do. Yeah, I enjoy my work.
Love it. Perfect. I was joking there about how writing a book makes you rich, because it doesn't, right? You don't earn a lot of money off your book writing.
No, and you end up paying more taxes. That's all.
Yeah. Do you have more people download the Kindle version, or more people get the paperback?
Uh, when I last looked at the report, the Kindle versions were sold more than the paperbacks.
Yeah. And that makes sense, right? People, particularly from, I want to jump into a particular recipe that you created in that book. You want to be able to do it quickly or search it up, rather than, thumb through. And I mean, and having those books on your bookshelf, I had to get rid of my, like, those big type of cookbooks a long time ago, because they take up so much space. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. And I think, it's an admirable, honor to get the title of author. Get that out there. I see you've had 224 ratings, a 4.4 out of 5 stars. So the book's obviously done very well.
Yeah, and that's prompted me to write the second one. So that's it.
Is it going to be an extension of this one, or are you going to lean heavily into Power Automate?
It is going to be there would be some recipes that will be obviously updated based on the new stuff that has been released. Covers some aspects of AI. It is going to have chapters on Viva, which wasn't there back then. So there's some additions to the book, yes, but some of the content would be the same. It's just an updated version of that last book.
In this book, right, you covered Power Automate, formerly Microsoft Flow, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Virtual Agents. Do you go deeper on any of those more than something like Office Delve? Like, is Office Delve still a thing? Do people still use that functionality?
No, so Delve is going to be in the appendix in this book, and
Yeah.
the Power Automate, Power Apps, they deserve a book of their own. So it's not possible to cover all the aspects in just one chapter. So it is going to be what I have tried to do there is try to cover the main aspects of these applications, but at the same time add some insights that comes from the experience that you have gained working on this. So giving them some tips that if you're trying to do this, probably try this way, not that way. That sort of a thing.
Yeah. And so are we going to see a dedicated chapter to Copilot?
Not a dedicated chapter, probably a mention, because it's still it's evolving. So not that much. And we are at the stage where we are trying to limit. That was another challenge with this book, that this Office 365 space is so rapidly emerging that it's very hard to keep up with it when you're writing a book.
Yeah, all the Viva products. Yesterday at Ignite, they announced, of course, the Copilot for Office 3 or for M365, right? Which is another add-on SKU, which is going to impact a lot of those traditional products like Excel and PowerPoint and Word, which I think is awesome, because they need to upgrade, right? They need to be. There's so much more that you can do now with these large language models and applying them with the technology. I think yeah, your book is definitely robust. I see as in the broadness of topics that it covers. In the Power Platform space, what's your go-to tool? Do you do more Power BI stuff? Do you do more Power Automate stuff? Where do you what's your deep skill area? Is it in one or two of those products? How do you describe it for yourself?
Yeah, it's primarily Power Automate. And obviously, with Power Automate comes Power Apps. So I would say Power Apps and Power Automate. That's my core skill.
In your career, have you worked much with Nintex,
Yes, I have in the
K2, those
past.
type of products?
I haven't used K2 as much, but I have worked with Nintex quite a bit.
Are they all irrelevant now that we have the Power Platform, Power Automate, forms over data using Power Apps?
I often think that question, like it might be very hard for the Nintex sales team to make a sales pitch now with Power Automate being there. And I mean, back when I used Nintex, licensing was one of the key concerns. Um, and this, when they brought the subscription model, it was getting even harder for me to push Nintex to a customer when I'm talking to them. But with Power Automate, there are these connectors, available connectors, and obviously licensing is again another aspect when it comes to premium licenses and all. But I haven't felt the need to move away from Power Automate at this stage. I think it's a pretty good platform at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when it comes to licensing, being the licensing is so reasonable when you do a true ROI calculation on it, the benefits far outweigh the cost and the value that you get. How did you become an MVP?
Yeah, so I mean, I have been actively uh, participating in the community since 2019. I used to run a user group, Azure user group as well in Christchurch. And I would blog about Teams, SQL, Power BI, and etc. And I got nominated back then, but my nomination was unsuccessful. I was told that I am all over the place. I have to pick one dedicated area for contributions. And so I directed all my focus to the Power Platform. And eventually my contributions got noted. I received my first MVP this year, and hopefully it continues.
Nice. And I just realized at the start when I introduced you, I said you're at the other end of my island, but I'm in the North Island and you're in the South Island, right in Christchurch.
That's correct. Yeah.
How long you ever lived in Christchurch?
I have lived over 10 years now. Uh, I arrived here in 2012.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of rough times then. In there. Did you come after the earthquake or before?
I came just after, right after the earthquake. So I was being asked this question that are you making a good decision to move to New Zealand now that
Yeah,
Christchurch had an
especially
earthquake?
Christchurch. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I made the right decision. I love this place, and I wouldn't move away from Christchurch. I don't want to move anywhere else at the moment.
Yes. Beautiful city. Beautiful city. Um, uh, just a shame all the tragedy it's had in really the last 12, 13 years combined. Tell me, when you were you surprised at anything when you joined? You became an MVP. Is anything been a surprise to you now that you're part of the club?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's still overwhelming. There's so many uh, invitations that I receive, like on different about these teams invites for PGI events and all. So I'm still getting my head around what are the things I should be participating in, what is I should be staying away from. So how to use my time in a better way.
Yeah. What Sandeep's talking about there are, as an MVP, you get access to the Microsoft product teams of various product groups, and you get to have live sessions with them as part of being an MVP, give them feedback, get insight about the product before it's released. All of it under NDA, but of course, very insightful and very helpful to one's career in where you spend your time and where you spend your focus based on what you see happening. As you've moved into this role, what do you see as the greatest contributor to you receiving the MVP? Was it the book? Was it your contributions in the forums? Was it blogging, videos? What was it for you?
For me, it was primarily my book and the contributions in the Power Automate forums. So I've been on the leaderboard for quite some time, and probably I think that's the primary reason why I got my MVP. I received my MVP this year.
Yeah, totally makes sense. It's interesting that you said, and it just came back to me. You said before that you were all over the place when it was, came to your submission. And one of the things I've highlighted is that if you want to become an MVP for the first time, you need to choose a lane and stick in the lane. In other words, you need to, if it's going to be Azure, go all in on Azure. If it's going to be M365, go all in that. If it's going to be Power Platform or Dynamics, go all in on that. You can't afford to be a little bit here, a little bit there across all those technologies, because when Microsoft come to making the decision about choosing, it's very difficult to them to go, okay, who chooses that? Is this enough for that category? And if you're spread thinly, you don't get enough compared to everybody else performing. So now, once you're in, that changes. Once you're in, you can start to diversify. And so it doesn't mean you have to, if you love a whole bunch of stuff around mixed reality and as well as Power Platform or something else, doesn't mean you can't continue to explore that. Just when it comes to your contribution commitments at the start, it's really important to be focused on the one area. So who nominated you?
I was nominated by Nate. He's also an MVP. He's in the States and he's writing this book with me.
Very good. So the second book you're writing, he's writing it with you.
It's three of us, me, Nate, and Gaurav.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, it's easier when you're splitting the workload right across three, a third of the book each.
Yes, and we wanted everyone to focus on one particular area so that we can cover everything in that. We can be across everything that's going on in that space.
I like it. Very smart. How deep are you personally getting into the area of AI?
Not much. I'm still exploring. I would say I'm in the exploratory phase. I'm just trying to come up with like real use cases that we could have and for AI. So I look at all the case studies that people are doing with AI. Some of that is scary, but at the same time, some of that is quite innovative. And so I'm just exploring the area. I haven't done much on that as yet.
Are you and I'm talking about personally here rather than in business, are you using it in any part of your day-to-day life, or, to perhaps you are using it in business, but I'm not talking about as part of a piece of like a Power Automate or something else? Like, are you practically using it to make your life more productive yourself?
Yes, certainly. With ChatGPT, it's so much easier to sort of use it. I've been using ChatGPT when I'm doing SPFX component, like I'm writing. I'm not a good developer, I would say, but now it's as long as you can explain what you're trying to do, you can get it to do that for you. So I think it's a very good enabler. It helps you as long as if you know in your head what you're trying to do, you can get it done with tools like this.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.